before all the other it was clear to them that they didn't. It was a unprecedented thing, and one of the biggest for UT wouldn't communicate. So we had a lot of questions that were unanswered going into the school year. But once the school year started, a lot of professors were pretty understanding situation. They understood that because person anymore, that meant a lot of responsibilities than they might have had had it been in. So if you have any of you guys taken like online classes with STC or something? Okay, so you know how those classes you either have yourself, there's no lecture, no anything. There that is telling you there's this textbook, you have to read it, read this chapters, and we're gonna have a quiz. Those are the grades that you're gonna get for the rest of the semester. Professors who have lectures and schedule their homeworks around, just find yourself having to adjust your life whatever the professor says. One of my chem, we were supposed to meet every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for a quiz, but because we were to lectures every Tuesday in group sessions on Thursdays, and on Fridays we would still have our quiz. It's a lot more adjust. How people always say like, oh, when you go to college you have much more independence. That's very true. You have so much free time. Oh my goodness, I had so much free time. It was wild. In the middle of the day I would be done with class. It would be like, and it's crazy because your minutes are accounted for in a classroom, and suddenly you have a whole day free because class. So that's one thing you should prepare for, is figuring out how to manage your time effectively. But since you have so much more independence, more of you, they understand that some people hours a week. So they're like, well, you have time to read that chapter, and so you should be able to finish the homework that I assign. It's a lot more independence, free time. There's a lot more people to meet, more from you. At least that's what I've seen. So I don't mean this in the wrong way, in a wrong way, but you guys understand the difference between like a teacher like the Ramoses and like a teacher who just assigns busy work, or who just, you know, oh, I need something, here's this assignment that you don't need. In college, every assignment given to you pretty much will end up on your final or on your midterm. And if you don't work through it yourself, things move so fast in college. In chemistry, we began working with like wavelengths and everything, and I understood perfectly. And then in a split second, in the middle of the lecture, we were talking about the physics of photons, and I was lost. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How did this move by so fast? But that's when you realize, like, moments like those are when you realize like why. Like for me, I picked UT because I knew it would be a decent challenge and I loved the city. I loved everything that the school stood into UT. I did not realize like how much more work it was than anything I've done before. And it was really interesting. It was really fun to figure out my new dynamic and how I am a student now. So yeah, it's a lot of change coming at you at once, but you have to believe that everyone who taught you the right things, and you have everything you need to be able to fight through whatever is thrown at you. Because I guarantee you, like I see who's here, and I know pretty much all of you. I know a lot, like you all have it in you to survive, not just survive, but thrive. It's a lot of change thrown at you at once, and it's a lot of rolling with the punches and just dealing with it day by day. Because there's so many questions that aren't answered until like the day of or the day before in college. And you just kind of have to roll with it and do what you can, like as best as possible. So yeah.
Okay, that's a good little intro. What else? Or do you want to take some questions?
Yeah, I'll take some questions.
Like, it's kind of good to see what direction these particular students want to ask, you know?
Yeah.
Do y'all want to ask something, or you can put it in the chat, or you can, you know, just unmute.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
How is your mental health?
Boom.
I mean, if it's not too personal.
No.
Oh no, this isn't. It's good. I will say that, well, quarantine in the beginning, like in March and everything, when we weren't allowed at our homes, I hated being alone. For those of you who know me, you know I'm a social butterfly, talk all the time, never shut up. I love people, and that was the one thing I didn't get to experience anymore. And so I was miserable. But going into UT, you immediately, or going into college, you immediately fall under this group of people who are feeling exactly what you're feeling, or who have as many questions, if not more questions than you do. So that's an immediate like bonding experience. You know how like trauma builds relationships? Like, well, that's true, because every friend I've made, the first thing we talk about is Corona, or how some of us didn't have a graduation, and like the things that we missed. And you know, that's an automatic connection that you make right there. So where back at home I felt alone because I was home alone and I was miserable because I couldn't see my friends, suddenly when I went to UT and I went to Austin, there were people who felt the exact same way as I did and who loved this school just as much as I did. So being at Austin and being in UT really raised or helped my mental health in a way that I didn't think it could, because I was surrounded by people who thought like me and who wanted to succeed as much as I did, and who just saw the world the same way I did. And it built this kind of camaraderie between me and like the people that I met online, because it's not safe to meet people in person. So online, I would make friends through Twitter, and you know, you just kind of had to find your way to make your own friend group, and that's what I did, and it helped so much. So, yeah. I would say it's really good. And then another thing that helps with is the of the school. You know, it was something that I talked about. Rankings are really bad in terms of sportsmanship and relationships between peers. You know, when rankings come out every semester, it feels like a person becomes that number instead of that person. And it was something I was very against, something I hated so much about. In college, that goes away. You'd be surprised if the person next to you. So between my friend group, it stopped becoming a game of like, oh, who's ranked higher, who's and everything, versus help on an assignment. I took AP statistics in high school. So if I can help you, I can. Again, like with all the free time, if you meet the right, I want you to succeed as myself to succeed. So like for me, I became friends with a lot of first generation students because I knew that they had the same. And between us, we'll find ourselves like, oh, I need to go study essay that I need to write. Like I need to research for it. Oh, what is it on? Maybe oh, I need help on statistics. Oh, I took AP statistics. I took college statistics in high school. Let me help. And for me, chemistry, or I didn't take AP chemistry, and when I took a regular or pre-AP chemistry, Miss Ellis had to leave for a large, so I was very scared. But my friends came in and they're like, oh, well, we took pre-AP Chem and AP Chem. Let's work through this together. My roommate, we had the same class, so we helped of camaraderie, and it really helps. It really puts things into perspective. Not everyone is out to get you. Not everyone wants to see you fail. People want to see you succeed because they know you can. And it's very heartwarming and like nice to feel.
Okay, there's a question in the chat about tips on saving money on textbooks.
TikTok is actually a really good tool because if you find yourself on the right side of TikTok, they'll bombard you with different websites of textbooks that you could get for free. I know it's like Library Genesis. There are several websites where you could find textbooks for free. Another thing that I liked that I used was Amazon Prime. You could rent books for like $50, and that was a book I didn't have to buy from the bookstore. So Amazon Prime, they have good deals, or they have a good student discount. Since we're students, Amazon Prime is also really good. And also you should look at what resources your school has for you. I didn't know it going into it, but with UT, I had a scholarship that gave me discounts on books, and I wouldn't have found out about that unless I asked. So find out what resources your school has for you. So many schools, like some schools have so many textbooks that you could just rent them out at the library. I know some people did that. They just walked in, asked, and they rented out to the student. You know, it's all about research and it takes a little bit of work, but yeah, there's some place. I know there's also this other website. I forgot the name of it. If I find it, I'll send it to Ms. Ryan. And also is to not a week, like a couple days into a class to see if you actually need a textbook. Some professors just put it into the syllabus because to have it a couple days, if the professor says you're gonna need it because of it, the midterms are based off of it, then get the book. But if they don't need you, get it, because she had to buy a whole bunch of different books. Most of them she didn't read part of class. So just take it like day by day, see how your professors are with the books that you need.
You can also purchase used books on Amazon and on half.com. Because they will still, I think they probably still do the thing where you can sell your textbooks back. You don't make anywhere near what you paid for them. Like if you buy, say you buy a $120 textbook for the first time, you use it throughout class and all of that. But you're not going to need it past that. Like it's not in your major. It's nothing that you're going to be hanging on to. You can sell it back. They'll give you 25 bucks for it or something. But then they turn around and sell those used ones at a reduced price to others. So you just have to tap into how that's happening on your campus or online.
Yeah. The biggest thing I could say is do your research. There are so many outlets and there are so many places that can help you. You just have to look for them. So yeah.
How do you get started looking for those things?
For me, I was lucky, and UT has a thing where after you register, you could get a list of all the textbooks that are in your syllabus. So we'll first have a list of what textbooks you think you'll need. And from there, I started searching for the book itself. That way I could get like a baseline price. If I were to buy it brand new, this is the cost. If I were rented from these, then this is how much it would cost to rent. And then I would go to the websites like Library Genesis, half.com, different websites that advertise lower priced textbooks. And I would search my textbooks if they were there. I would go on Amazon and see like if there are any personal listings for the books, like by other people. eBay, not a lot of people use eBay, so maybe you could find like a hidden gem in there. I also ask like people around me. I made pretty good friends with upperclassmen who are in my major, so I use them like, oh, do you actually need this textbook, or do you have this textbook? Can I buy it off you? Yeah, that's how I got by the first semester.
I was just going to add to that. Sometimes you can find what was I going to say? It slipped my mind now. I interrupted and then I didn't have anything to say. Welcome to your 50s, Mrs. Ramos. Oh, I know. It came back to me. And that is that sometimes you can find like the previous edition of that textbook and there's not that much different from it. And you can just go to your professor and you can say, I know that the syllabus says edition 9, but I have edition 7. Will it still work or not? And they might say, yeah, that you'll be fine. Or they might say, no, you really do need 9 because it's very different. So sometimes you can get those even cheaper because they're from a few years ago.
And out for besides textbooks are like books for that class. I don't know if I had 2 separate professors that they didn't have book. They had which for chemistry it was just a bunch of the sequence supposed to learn. And for my journalism class, it was just different works of people that we had to analyze. So you could
like
also follow, like packets. You could follow the same rules for finding textbooks and try to find those cheaper. But some professors, they make you buy their own works because that's part of their business. And for that, you could try to find people who've had it before and buy it cheaper off them. If you can't buy it cheaper off that book, and try to finick your way around a cheaper textbook.
All right, who's got another question that they want to ask?
I was gonna ask about like scholarships. Like if you get a scholarship, like do you just like receive it? Like does it go into like your bank account or all that? Like
okay, so scholarships with universities or big name scholarships like the Coca-Cola scholarship, the Dell scholarship, Rhodes Scholar, all of those big scholarships and the ones you get with your university, they go when you pay your tuition and you say pay with my tuition, pay with my scholarships, they go towards that bill first and they pay it all off, and then the school tells you how much you owe, if you owe anything. And your school will ask you for your bank information. I gave them mine so that way they could direct deposit all the leftover money into my account. And that's how I got my scholarship money. So I got the scholarship. I got a UT for Me scholarship, and then I got a separate scholarship with the College of Liberal Arts. And those two together, not only did it pay off like all of my tuition, I also got money from it for like personal needs. So after all my tuition was paid off for, after I bought all my books, because some of it goes towards my credit, like my student credit that I pay with my ID. After all that money was separated, they direct deposited towards my account. So whatever school you're going to, whatever school you're planning on their financial aid page, I know every school is different, but on UT, for our financial aid, and on there, I put my bank information, and now every semester when they distribute scholarships, I get mine directly into my bank account. The personal scholarships or the city scholarships that you're applying to, I'm assuming like right now, and like the Wesleyan scholarships are like in March, right? Yeah. Okay. Make sure you apply to those because those give you the money. They just give you the check. And your school scholarships won't hit until like mid-September. So for payments you need if you get an apartment, buy stuff for your dorm, all the early stuff that you need that you won't be able to get, that you need to get before your financial aid check, make sure you get scholarships like that because they just give you a check and you could deposit that straight into your account. You could deposit it next day, just go to the bank and they could either give you the money. I had a bank account, so it just went into my bank account. So different scholarships were for the main, at least for the Wesco City ones, or any scholarship that are pretty local, they give you a check and they make sure you sign off on it, make sure you got it, make sure you have an ID, and once you register, you'll have a list of your classes. So like one thing is that you have to make sure you have a list of your classes. Can't get your scholarships unless they know that you're a full-time registered student. So for the local scholarships, you probably won't be able to pick them up till August. I couldn't pick mine up till August. It just depends on.
I have a question for you. Do you think that I should do the same thing that I did to you guys with this class and make them do a certain number of scholarships a week or 6 weeks?
Yes, because it helps.
Because you all hated me for that. I
Yeah.
know you didn't say anything to me because you're too polite and I'm too nice. But I made them do like 5 or 6 scholarships, like a 6 weeks. They had to do like 1 scholarship every week. And I want to know if it was worth it.
Yeah, it was. There were a lot of people, there were a lot of groans in the class. A lot of people did not like it. They're like, it's so dumb or whatever. But you'd be surprised how much you need the money. You don't realize how much you spend on yourself until you get that money and you realize like, oh. And then also it depends on what college you go to. I go to Austin, and Austin a meal is at least $15 each. So you have to prepare for that, and you're not prepared for that until you're there. So
yeah, we should probably talk about that because we were talking about that last period. Joella was in my last class period. You probably already know that. And we were talking about how expensive it is to eat out, and the difference between a meal plan, which nobody really wants to do because it's like cafeteria food, or cooking for yourself, which you're going to be limited in a dorm. And I pointed out the fact that things cost different in different places of the country. So if you're used to paying a certain amount for, say, a Big Mac meal or something at HEB in the Valley, you're going to go to Austin and you're going to go to HEB to buy that exact same thing, and it's going to be $3 more.
Yeah.
Or you're going to go to McDonald's and your meal isn't $4.95 or $6, it's $8.22. Because these corporations understand that in different places, they'll get more business if they have a different price.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to get as much as they can. So you can go and buy your Lunchable at HEB, right? Maybe you guys are Lunchables, I don't know, whatever. Can of soup, whatever. Here, and it's going to be, like $2.35, and you're going to go to some Austin HEB and it's going to be $5.75, the same exact ham and cheese Lunchable.
So I know specifically the difference between Lunchables because I love Lunchables. So the Lunchables here at HEB, like the HEB on Westgate, you could get them for like 99 cents, $1 something. At the closest Target near me, they're $2.39. It's a whole $1 more. It's so expensive for the same like 5 crackers, 5 cheeses, 5 hams, and it's more. And it gets me so mad. I haven't had a Lunchable in so long. But yeah, like the prices are jacked up because you're in a bigger city, because you're in a smaller city, because food droughts are real. So yeah, if you go into a small city, don't think it's not going to affect you. You might have to drive 15-20 minutes to a Walmart, and that'll cost you money. Here in Austin, things are just more expensive because it's Austin and people can afford being expensive. Yeah, like those scholarships help a lot because again, like you don't know how expensive where you're going to be is going to be until you're there. And the most expensive part about UT Austin isn't paying tuition, isn't going to the school, it's living in Austin. My apartment, it's $675 a month, living room, and I share my room. I have a roommate. It's $675 a month, and that is the cheapest rent you'll find near UT. There are some places where it is just a room, like a shoebox room, a studio apartment for $1,600 a month. It's insane how much they'll take advantage of the fact that you need housing. And that'll be that any big city where gentrification is happening, they'll charge you more for the sole fact that they can. So scholarships help anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's a big one, if it's a small one. $500, $250 is $250, and you will use it. Because it could be anything from food, going to Walmart and buying a dozen frozen pizzas, or going out to eat because you just want a Big Mac, or buying textbooks because that's inevitable. That's $500 that you didn't have to spend on yourself, or just buying university merch. You worked hard to get into the university you want, and sometimes that $50 sweater is just worth $50 because it's purple. Like, there are so many things that you want, and you have the independence to get it for yourself. And if you have the money for it, you will go for it. And scholarships just make that happen. Also, if you have enough money, you're able to have a new sense of independence. And that's like with the scholarships that I applied for, because I got so much, I was able to live independently in Austin. My parents didn't send me a dime. I didn't ask them for anything. And they told, like, before I leave, they're like, we can't help you. You have to, like, if you're going to Austin, you kind of have to do it on your own. And I got to do that because of the scholarships that I got. And I got to live independently. I didn't need my parents to check my bank account. I had to budget on my own. And that's a new sense of independence that not a lot of people get. And I had to grow up faster, but it's worth it because I'm gonna have to be grown up for the rest of my life. So might as well do it effectively the first year. So like me and basically all my friends, or because I still have a lot of friends like Joelle, like me and Joelle, both of us had to live pretty independently because we both got pretty substantial scholarships and enough scholarships to be able to live on our own. And it was really nice. That was something that my parents never had to worry about. I've had siblings before who went to college and they're first generation too. They didn't have anyone to prepare them. They didn't know how much it was going to be to leave. And my parents didn't know either. They didn't go to college. They tell me that all the time. Like every time I ask for help, they're like, we don't know. So being able to go to college and being able to have enough money to make my own decisions really helps. It forces you to have independence, but then you're free to make decisions that'll make you happiest. You don't have to compromise when you're your own person. And that's why scholarships are important. They say like money can't buy happiness, but money does buy your independence. You get to be your own person for the first time in your life, and it's so freeing and it's so worth it. It's so worth it because all I've ever wanted was to be my own person, and now I have that opportunity just because I worked hard in high school. Like, it's so, like, me and Joelle talk about it a lot, that I've changed a lot since high school. I don't know if you could tell by the screen, but I know I have. I know I've had so much personal growth, so much academic growth, just because I chose the right school for me, and just because I made the right decisions, because Ms. Ramos pointed me in the right direction. I know for anyone else who's first gen, or even if you're not first gen, there's so many questions that you have. There's so many answers that aren't given straight out to you, but believe that the opinions and the advice that are given to you in like good conscience. Like, I know applying for scholarships is like, it sounds so like, why do I have to, like, this is so annoying, but it's free money. And these people want to give you money. It's giving you money for work that you had to do anyway. you know, like all the homework that you did and you got 100 for and that you thought was so stupid, you could get $500 for that. I got $1,000 for being me. You know, I did UIL, I did theater, I did band for a couple years, and people gave me money for it. That's so amazing. You'll never be able to get free money like that again. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Especially as an incoming freshman, people want to give you money. People in Weslaco want to see you succeed. You know, like last year we had about like 10 people from UT or from East go to UT. And so many people just wanted to see us succeed because we were Weslaco kids going to UT. And that doesn't stop just because you're going to another school. You know, people want to see you succeed, and it's up to you to take advantage of that. So yeah, like scholarships are really important. I do recommend that you give them a grade for it because some of them probably won't do it unless it's for a grade. And yeah, like it's you being able to buy your own independence that is important. Like, yes, you need it for food, you need it for textbooks, but most importantly, you need it because that's how you say you got to make your own decision. You know, if your bank account is monitored by your parents 24/7 because it's their money, not yours, suddenly you don't get to buy the sweatshirt that you wanted, or you don't get to go out again with your friends because your parents look at your bank account. I have friends like that their parents look at their bank account because it's their parents' money. And every time they go out, they have to sit there and text their parents, can you send me $20? Can you send me $15? Can you send me, you know, and every transaction is a compromise. But I didn't have to do that. Joelle didn't have to do that because it's our money. We worked hard for that and we got paid for it. And it's so rewarding, you know? It's just a new sense of independence. And it's awesome. And I've had it last for so long. All of my scholarships, I budgeted well for it. I had to pay rent. I had to pay different things for school. I spent like $500 on UT because of all the things that they made me buy for like my classes. And I still have money, like from the beginning of school, which is like late August up till now, I still have my scholarship money. I haven't asked my parents for anything. And it's so freeing. It's so awesome because I'm my own person now.
Well, okay, I'm crying. I'm super proud. I know, I mean, I want to say that I might have been a little bit overly ambitious, but I was really forcing them all last year to do scholarships, and you guys are going to feel it pretty soon. And then they actually had to submit like screenshots that they did the scholarships, and I graded them. They had to do a certain number of them. But it's a little different this year because we don't have that class time. We had a lot of class time, well, up until March last year. And so some days they would just sit there and do their scholarships, you know, for an hour and a half and get 3 of them knocked out. Mm-hmm. We don't have that, so I'll probably change the requirements, but literally at the end of the 6 weeks, they had to submit to me visual proof that they had done their scholarships. Yeah. So I'm glad to know that it was helpful.
Yeah, because like money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you independence. And I know some people are like, oh, independence is so scary. And like, oh, don't be an adult. Like, well, first of all, don't be an adult. It's much more responsibility, right? But you just get that sense of independence. Being, you know, you're away from your family for the first time, you know, for those of you who are leaving. And even if you are going to UTRGV and, you know, it's not that same sense of independence because you're home, you need that money for gas. And I'm pretty sure UTRGV has clubs and you need to pay dues for that. You know, and if you want to go out because you haven't gone out and like you haven't left your house in a couple weeks because of quarantine and you want to leave, you have that independence to leave because it's your money now. Of course, every family works different. I may be lucky and have parents who let me do that, but I don't know. It's just so freeing. And then also you get that experience of buying something and not having to check your bank account right after to make sure you have enough money for the next one. You know, you get to go to school without worrying about money. And that's something I didn't have in high school because my parents had to work all the time. I was always worried of like, how am I supposed to eat? But now I don't have that. And it's much more important because in college, my time is taken up by my classes because UT is hard. UT is hard. Like there's a reason it's so hard to get in. UT is hard. But I know I got in for a reason. I know I got in because I'm supposed to be there. I just need to work hard as much as hard. I need to work as hard as the work they're giving me. And it's just worth it to not have to worry about money.
Awesome. All right, what other questions do y'all have? I mean, we could pick topics for you that you don't even know that you need to know, but but it's better to sort of think about what is in the forefront of your mind right now and hear somebody talk about it for you. I'm too old, my college experience doesn't apply anymore.
I'll answer a question that some of y'all probably aren't thinking of right now, and that is voting. This year was a voting year, and I was dead set on voting. But I just didn't know how to vote when I'm so far away. I didn't know, like, what am I supposed to do? I had to do so much research, so I'll answer that question for you. It depends on if you want to vote in your hometown or if you want to vote in your new college town. Seeing as voting happens late or all October, early November, you may want to vote it at your college. So what you should do is you should go where you apply for your, you could go to vote.org and try to find how to apply for voting in Texas. And you try to find like change my address. You need to change your address from whatever address you have back at home to your new address. Let it be your dorm, your apartment, your house, wherever you are. And after like 2 weeks, you should get a letter that says like, oh, your address has been changed. Like with your voter location, you should get a new voter ID. And that's how you're able to vote in your college town. I helped a lot of my friends in Austin because UT has a lot of polling stations in college, in the university. So yeah, I didn't know how to. It was such a struggle. I ended up having to come all the way down to vote down here. But had I just known about that, I could have voted up there, saved me the 6-hour drive. So yeah, that's one thing people don't think of is how to vote in college.
Well, and let me just like deepen it because a lot of people will be like, oh, I'll worry about that in November. But there are a lot of issues and there are elections all the time. We only hear about the ones in November. So sometimes there are local elections and who gets on, the regent board for your university, who is a representative on your town will help make regulations on, all kinds of things that are going to affect you. Even nationally right now, there are lots of debates about relieving student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
And that has come before Congress a couple of times already in other bills. And if you're not paying attention to that, that's like directly in your face every day, then like you can vote and have your voice heard about how you want the government to do that or not do that. Because people like me, well, not people like me, people my age, they don't want to pay money to have young kids get out of their college debt. They're gonna be like, well, I went to college and I'm fine. And they don't understand the amount of debt that gets racked up by students. So, your voice can be important in lots of ways that will directly affect you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
And a lot of us are women on here. A lot of our rights are contested every day in Congress. And when you're of age, you should be able to vote and pick people who will use their voice to save your life. Voting is very important, especially now that you have your own voice as a college student. So make sure you register to vote. Make sure you vote. So yeah, that's something that I didn't think of. And that's because I love politics. So yeah.
Okay, what else? What other topics before we wrap up would you like to hear about? Okay, so there's one in the chat. What did you feel or what were your thoughts your first day that you attended at UT?
Okay, so for those of you who knew me senior year, I showed up every day in a UT shirt. Even before I was accepted, I loved UT and I knew that's where I wanted to go. So finally, when it was time for school to start, at that point, or I got accepted into the UT band. So I had, you know, felt a dynamic between UT students for a couple weeks before I got into UT, or before the first day of class. And I just felt so much Longhorn pride. This Longhorns to me, that is, UT is the best school in Texas. I don't want to hear it. It's my favorite school in the world. I just love the culture there. I love the people there. I love Austin. And I was just so excited at the beginning of your semester of college. So many questions, you know, like think back to freshman year you. Think back to all the things that freshman year you thought you would achieve, thought you couldn't achieve. And now look back at senior year you and how much you have done and how much you've accomplished. I had that same feeling, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna join? What am I gonna fall in love with here at UT? Because there's so many different paths to take. You know, I'm a psychology major and there are so many different routes you could take in psychology at UT because that program is just built so finely. You know, there are so many different things you could pick, extracurriculars. You could join like the newspaper. I joined the band. There's so many different things you could do, and I was just so excited because I wanted to try all of them. Of course, you can't, so I had to pick and choose which ones to do for my first semester. But I was just so excited, and that was just like for my classes, because since I took early college in high school, I didn't take any core. I'm already like a junior in credits and I wasn't even in early college. And I didn't have to worry about core, or I didn't have to take any English classes, no history, no, I had to take sciences, but that's just because of UT. But I got to take classes that I was already interested in. I got to take this, what was it called? Healer-patient relationships that discussed the responsibility of doctors in politics, how healthcare is, how if a doctor doesn't support universal healthcare, then they shouldn't consider themselves a healer. And it was just so interesting to see how overlapped the healthcare world is with us, and how much our health impacts everything, and how healers have so much power that they don't exercise every day. And it was so interesting because there's so many classes that you can take, and I don't know, I was just so excited. It was, and you're in a new city, in such a big city. I had the privilege, or I use Twitter a lot because a lot of UT students use Twitter. That's another advice. Find out which app your school uses. For UT, it's Twitter. I know Amanda, she went to Baylor. For Baylor, it's Instagram. Find out the social media app that your school uses a lot and abuse it, because that's how I got so many resources. That's how I got friends. You know, I didn't feel safe going out in public and meeting people because they could get me sick. And, you know, there are bad people who don't want to follow CDC regulations, and it hurts. And I couldn't go out willy-nilly and just make friends how I usually do. I use social media, and I have a whole friend group. I had a whole friend group by like the second week of class because I use Twitter to my advantage. So yeah, I recommend that. Beef up your social medias because that's how you make friends, especially in a time where you can't meet up in public. So, yeah.
You could even start before the first semester because there'll probably be hashtags that you can follow, and stuff from, you know, the
Like,
summer or the spring.
As soon as you guys know what college you're going to, put that in your bio. I put hashtag UT24 in my bio. So now every time, or on Twitter, now every time someone searched UT24, my account was the first one to pop up. So if you're going to A&M, put hashtag TAMU25, hashtag UT25, hashtag UTRGB25, and you get connected with so many people just through that hashtag. And I would go through that hashtag and just follow everyone who had it, because that could be my next college friend. So I recommend y'all do that, because if you have a question, chances are that someone in there has an answer, and every connection you get can be an advantage towards you. So I recommend beefing up your social media like that. But Going into UT, I already knew that that was the college for me. I researched a lot when it came to colleges because before senior year, I had zero idea what I wanted to do, zero idea what college I wanted to go to. But once I researched UT, I fell in love with it and I knew that was the school for me. And I got lucky enough to go. So yeah. And all of my dual enrollment did transfer, all of it. But it's because I went to an in-state school, an in-state public school, and all of it transferred. Of course, it depends on your major. I have a friend, my friend Caroline, she got her associate's degree. So most of her credits transferred, but since she's a chemistry major, UT won't let you transfer college credits that are for your major. And especially since she's a STEM major, her chemistry credits didn't transfer. UT made her take all the classes with UT. But that's just the standard practice across most universities. I'm pretty sure if that class is within your major, you have to retake it with them because they want to make sure you have like the UT science down, especially since UT science is really hard. It's intense. And how UT works with like pre-med students. UT has one of the largest number of pre-med students churned out every year. So they want to make sure you have the right sciences down, especially like in intro classes, you need to have a great foundation. So yeah, so it just depends on your college. I know for UT, you could search up credit transfer on there and then you could find out which credits transfer to what classes. That's what I did and that's what I used to maximize how many credits I could take with me to UT. But yeah, for me, all of them did because I'm a psychology major. All of them did. For Joelle, all of them did. Even for Amanda, she went to Baylor, which is a private school. I expected not a lot of them to transfer. All of them transferred for her. So yeah, you just need to do the research. In-state schools, I don't know. Or out-of-state schools, I don't think your dual enrollment would transfer well out of state, but in-state, your chances are pretty good. So yeah. Oh, and another thing, I know it's probably too late for y'all, but if you know underclassmen, let them know. When you pass an AP class, yes, you get the credit, yes, you can transfer it, but you have to pay for that. And it's $10, or at UT, it's $10 per credit hour. So like I took AP Spanish and I passed the test. That's the only AP credit I got. And it's like $60 because it's 6 hours. And that's $6 I wouldn't have to pay had I taken it dual enrollment. And that's just because I had one AP test that I got a 5 in. I have friends who did straight AP and they have to pay like so much money just to transfer that credit. Yes, it's less than tuition, but that's money that they wouldn't have had to pay had they been able to take dual enrollment. So yeah. So I was lucky and took most dual enrollment anyway. So yeah.
Okay, well, all of that is good information and we appreciate it. Are there any last minute questions before we wrap it up for today? You can pop them in the chat or you can unmute and ask Ahitza. If you're doing both online and in-person learning, how does that work? Do you have a choice which courses can be online or in person?
So it depends on how you register or how each schools do their registration. For UT, you kind of got to pick because when you're registering, you get to pick which classes, and there on the register, they'll tell you this class is in person at this time and this class is online. Sometimes they have online lectures or sometimes they're completely web-based where you don't attend lecture. It's just you completing the modules at the time they're assigned. But for the most part, you do get to pick if you want completely online, if you want completely in person, or some of which. So like for me, I had a hybrid. My only in-person class was my band class, but everything else was online. So for a majority of my online classes, it would be an online lecture, an online, if it was a lecture, then it was a discussion with like 5 other students and a TA. And we would talk like this on Zoom, and we would have to do homework after Zoom. For my in-person classes, we would show up it was band, so we would perform. But for other in-person classes, they would be socially distanced. You had to have a mask on. They would take attendance, and that's how they would do it. It just goes back to managing your time. You're not going to be able to sign up for a class that has time or that conflicts with each other. So even in-person classes follow a schedule, or even online classes follow a schedule. And they'll give you that when you register. So they will not conflict. It's kind of like, oh, sorry, my dogs are barking, but it's kind of like, you know, you go on your laptop, you attend lecture. For the most part, it would just be a teacher talking to you for 2 hours. You take notes while they're talking, and then you get ready, and then you run off to your in-person class. That's how it works. It's a lot simpler than they make it out to seem. I know hearing it sounds very hectic, but it's a lot like East. You know how you have periods and stuff, and one class is here, and then you'd have to walk out and go. It's kind of like that. You have a class, but say it's in person, you could just stay in bed. I would go to the library a lot because I don't work well in my bedroom. So I would go to the library, sit there, do my homework. I would already be dressed for class. And then once that class was over, I finished discussion, I would pack my things and then walk on over to band. So yeah, you just find ways to fit it in your schedule.
Do most people have like a hybrid schedule like that, or are there some people who do all online and some people who do all in, you know, face to face?
I don't. If you're on campus, for the most part, it's probably because you have in-person classes. I would say for UT, it's a majority of online classes. Because UT is so big, and because I'm a freshman, and because there's so many freshmen, they have a lot more online classes because it's really hard to socially distance a class of 300 students. So a lot of the people I knew had a majority of online classes. You would have some in-person classes. Like if they knew that class was only going to be 10 students and they had room to socially distance 6 feet, then they would have in-person class.
Well, that's just because of the COVID, right? Like in a regular circumstance without the virus and, you know, the pandemic going on, maybe there'd be more in-person classes, right?
Oh, definitely. I think almost all classes are in person pre-pandemic. So yeah, I just knew that they had to make a really fast switch because of the pandemic. But if the vaccine works as it should, and by next fall we have a regular fall schedule, most of your classes should be in person because you're there on campus.
Okay, good. All right, any other last comments, questions, topics? We can have other visits. This isn't the only time that we can have a student come in. You know, I think we probably had 3 or 4 last year. Before I had a few more lined up, but we didn't get to do them because we hadn't figured out Zoom yet, and we were just trying to finish out the semester. And I don't know if you remember, but last spring it was like, are we going back this week? No, we're not going back this week. And we waited for a while before we found out that we weren't going back at all. And then we were just dealing with sad seniors. So
I remember because your class was the last one I had before it let out. And I remember sitting in your classroom, sitting in my seat in the middle of the class, and people were like, oh, like, is it just going to be spring break? Or yeah, we get to have 2 weeks instead of 1. Yay, like extra break. And we're like, and then I remember you telling us, you know, it's unpredictable with I think it was the swine flu that one you had to extend break. And then I remember thinking like, oh, I hope they don't extend break because I don't want to have another week of my summer taken away. I just remember not liking the idea of extended break, and that break took 9 months. So yeah.
yeah, I think we're handling it a little better at this point in time, but it's still not the same.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But All right, well, I think that's it. We can have other visits and we'll have other people in, maybe from different schools, and maybe we'll get Ahitza back a little bit later once we'll have a group of people that decided they wanted to go to UT, and you can give some more specific, like maybe we could group or have breakout groups where I have 2 or 3 different students, and then all the ones who have already committed to UT can come in with you, and well, how do I do this, and who do I contact,
Yeah,
and all that.
definitely,
Maybe
that
we'll
would be
do
cool.
something like that. Yeah.
And
But
then
anyway,
I
we
also,
should go ahead.
I have I'm still in touch with, or like I'm still friends with a lot of my high school friends. I have a couple people going to UTSA. I know Amanda is going to Baylor. I could put you in touch with them. So if you tell me the list of students going where, I can send you people that could help
Okay.
them.
Yeah, I think we'll be looking at doing that around March because people will have to have some time to make their final decisions. Right now, they're just hearing from their schools. So at this point, some people have an idea and some people are waiting. So we'll give it a month or so and we'll start setting something up. I sure do appreciate your time. You guys, I mean, it's really a great thing for the seniors to ask somebody who's been through it recently a question and just hear the lay of the land. And I know that can be a little overwhelming, but just remember that Ahitza was sitting in your spot last year at the same time. So she figured it out, she navigated, she pursued what she wanted, and any of you can do the same thing. So, it's what's uncomfortable right now isn't your potential or what you could do. It's just that you don't know yet, and things have to work themselves out a little bit. And so that can make anybody a little anxious. So, but we sure do appreciate your time and your expertise. And I'm so glad that you could join us today. Those of you who are here, our next class meeting is going to be Monday. I'm not making an assignment for this week, but there is a formative for today so that you can get your attendance. And there's one on Friday too. And then we'll start talking on Monday about our second semester. All right.
One last thing to say,
Of course.
because that reminded me that y'all are picking schools right now, and that's very exciting. It's very exciting to see, like, oh, like they want me as a student. I know I picked the right school for me. I went to Austin and I learned so much about myself, about others, and I truly believe I picked the school that made me the happiest. I'm happiest that I've ever been. But I have friends who don't feel the same. I have friends who hate their school, who wish they didn't go there. And it's because they didn't research well, or they thought that things would go one way and didn't. And now they're looking into transferring or things like that. So what I will say, as y'all are picking your schools and choosing where you want to go, prioritize your happiness. And that means, yes, looking into money, researching into the school, researching what kind of atmosphere each school provides for you, and pick your happiness. Yes, money is important and your education is important, but you can't get a 4.0 if you're miserable, and it's hard to feel happy when you're in an area that you just despise. So prioritize your happiness. Pick where you think is perfect for you, and you shouldn't let people discourage you for that. It doesn't matter if you pick UTRGV because you know your family will make you happiest, or you pick a school so out of state, so far away, because space is what is going to help you. Prioritize your happiness. Pick a school that will make you happy, not a school that will make your parents happy, or a school because all your friends are going. Pick a school that will make you happy. I promise you, it'll be the best decision you ever made. So yeah, that's my last bit of advice.
Well, and that's great advice. So we sure do appreciate it. They're thanking you in the chat. So we're really grateful to have you today, and hopefully you guys picked up on some information and some ideas to move into the next phase of your life. So with that, I'm going to close out the meeting, and I will see you all on Monday.
Bye.
Thanks, Ahitza.
No problem. Let me know if you guys need anything.